All right, now to implement the mapping, let's go to mapping profile. Now, so far, all the mappings we have are from domain to API resources. In this lecture, we're going to create a map from an API resource to a domain class. So as your application grows, you may want to split these maps into different profiles because you will end up with one gigantic mapping profile. So for now, because we only have a few maps, I'm simply adding this comment on the top, API resource to domain. And in the future, when this application grows, we can simply cut and paste each part into a separate profile. All right, now create map from vehicle resource to vehicle. Now here we need to supply additional configuration for this map because the shape of our domain class is different from the shape of our API resource. So before adding semicolon here, we add dot to chain different methods here. We use the forMember method. The first argument to this method is a lambda expression that identifies the target object. So v as in vehicle goes to v.contactName. Now we want to map this from vehicle resource.contact.name. So the second argument to this method is another lambda expression which tells us where we can find the value for this member. So here we pass an opt or operation object goes to opt.mapFrom. Now we need to supply a lambda expression to specify the property in the source object, which is vehicle resource. So vehicle resource goes to vehicle resource.contact.name. Now I'm going to duplicate this line a couple of times and change it for contact email and phone. Now similarly, we need to create another configuration for mapping the features. So duplicate one more time. For the features property, we're going to map them from vehicle resource.features. But here we're dealing with a bunch of integers. So for each integer, we need to create a new vehicle feature object. So here I'm going to use link.select. We don't have this method here, so let's import it on the top using system.link. So here I'm going to select all these feature IDs. Let's say ID as an argument goes to, and for each ID, I'm going to create a new vehicle feature. And I'm going to initialize this vehicle feature straight away. I'm going to set the feature ID property to this ID, just like that. All right, let's test our mapping to make sure it's set up properly. So save. Now we go back to our vehicles controller and change the input to this action to vehicle resource. Import the namespace. And I would like to change the argument name to vehicle resource as well. Now to use AutoMapper, we need to inject the iMapper interface in the constructor of this class. So constructor, vehicles controller, takes iMapper. Import the namespace, mapper, and initialize field from parameter. Good. And finally, in our action, we want to map this API resource to a domain object. So vehicle equals mapper.map a vehicle resource to a vehicle, and the argument is this vehicle resource object. And finally, instead of returning this vehicle resource, we want to return vehicle to see if the mapping is done properly. Now back in Postman, I'm going to set contact name, phone, and email here. We've got last update, but it shouldn't impact the last update property of our domain class. And our features are simple numbers. So send. I got this 204 response, no content, which is a little bit strange. And it looks like I missed a comma here after contact. Let's try again. Send. Okay, we got 200. Beautiful. Look at the response. So model ID is set properly, is registered. Contact name, email, and phone all are set properly. Last update is not set, so you can see this is the default value for the datetime object in .NET. And for features, now we have 3 vehicle feature objects, and look, feature ID is set properly. Feature ID 2 and feature ID 3. Beautiful. So now that mapping is ready, next we're going to add this vehicle object to our database.